call the meeting to order. This is the October 5th, 2022 meeting of the Grafton Information Technology Committee. And pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, as amended by Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting of the IT Committee is being conducted with remote participation by committee members and members of the public. Remote participation by the public for the public comment agenda item and any other matter for which the committee allows public participation will be via the Zoom raise hand feature. If you raise your hand on Zoom, you'll be enabled at an appropriate point to enter the meeting via voice or video to make a comment or ask a question. Please identify yourself by name and address for the record. And as we are all fully remote, every vote will be taken by roll call. I should have that totally memorized by now, but I don't. I still have to put it on my screen and read it.
You should just have a recording where like you just press the play button and it does it like in a monotone at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, can you lip sync it?
And given that all of us here have been through this many, many times, it almost seems like a waste of time to even read that, but as a formality, we always do.
But it's required though, isn't it?
No,
Oh, it's not required?
no. But it's always done. Someone in a previous administrative position, I guess, dictated on day one that these things would be done for these meetings, and no one ever put up the authority for the rule.
Yeah.
I just thought that I thought it was just required because I had heard it for so long.
Yeah, well, I usually am, when it comes to me, I'm more casual about it. Well, I just thought there was something. Oh, the recorded announcement. I think the cable committee did that this last time. I think they had Bob DeToma playing on some audio thing into Zoom.
Anyway, well, there may come a time when, I mean, this is still in a sense a temporary arrangement doing these remote meetings. There may come a time when it's more well-established procedure-wise, and we kind of dispense with this. Over the last couple of years since we've been doing Zoom meetings, various boards and committees have started out being more diligent about making a pre-meeting announcement, and a lot of times it's become more relaxed. And I've kind of maintained the habit of reading this, but I may be able to kick that habit one of these days. Anyway, it's not an option. We are at least one committee member is participating remotely. In fact, all 5 of us are. So we need to call the roll of attendance just for the purpose of making sure everybody can hear everybody. So Ellen Baker.
Here.
Bob Hassinger.
I'm here.
Amar Clark.
Here.
Bob Carroll.
Here.
Dave Robbins is here, and our guest, William Blake.
Here.
Yes, okay, so we will begin with our agenda. The first agenda item is public input. If there is a member of the public attending the meeting this evening and wishes to speak on a matter that is not already on the board committee's agenda, now would be the time to raise your hand and speak. I do see that we have one attendee. They have not raised their hand, so I assume they have no comment at this point. The next agenda item is update from town administrator. And I think William, standing in for the town administrator, can fill the committee in on anything that he or Evan want to bring to our attention, other than the next agenda item, which is the town website, which we're all interested in. But anything other than the website that the committee should be updated on, William?
No, none that I am aware of. Evan did not give me any marching orders to bring over to you.
Can I ask a question real quick? See if you know the answer to this.
Sure.
Last meeting, there was progress mentioned on the O365 migration. Has that been continuing, or like have we like moved past just the background stuff, or is it still kind of on the background being done, or do you know the answer to that?
Nope. So the move over to 365 should be done before the end of the month. That was something that we pressed pause on because it was running in tandem with the IT RFP process. And we didn't want to make too much progress on that if we were then going to be switching vendors. We wound up staying with the same vendor, CMD Technologies. So we're now moving full steam ahead with that.
That was gonna be my next question, is the RFP, so, okay.
And speaking of that, I spoke briefly with Evan last week, and he thought maybe December would be a good time for CMD to meet with us, sort of to bring everybody up to date. He thought in part, deferring that to September would give CMD a chance to get settled into their new role, which has changed somewhat with the the new RFP. I think some additional responsibilities and some changes. So we will tentatively plan on a meeting with Charlie and company at our meeting in December. And with that, I'm not aware of anything else, either from my own conversations with Evan or anything else I've heard, but really the major topic of interest is probably the website, which is our next agenda item.
I will say that every month at the cable committee meeting, we get a report on the finances, and every month it's, no, it's not right yet. I can't get the right information. The system isn't up, the system isn't working, the system is something, the books aren't closed, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I gather that there are still some things happening with the transition from SoftWrite to Vadar in terms of closing out the books on fiscal 22 and the chart of accounts update and various other matters. I don't know all the details, but I know it is my impression that the transition is not yet truly complete.
Right, and that leaves like that committee that's supposed to oversee the cable funds without. I don't think it's a problem. I think there's plenty of money there and so on, but it puts you in the position of not really doing a job because you don't have the information to do it with. And yeah, okay.
All right, so on the topic of the website, not too many days ago, was it last week or the week before, William sent out the link to what was being called the beta copy or the beta version of the website. And I have been spending some time myself between then and now, looking it over, reviewing particularly some of the newer functionality. And I know I've got a ton of notes that I'm trying to organize into some coherent commentary. I've got a few topics sort of off the top of my head I would be happy to point out, but before I start any sort of monologue about it, I'd like to ask other committee members what they've seen and done so far.
Yeah, I kind of also want to wait to give others the opportunity to discuss first. I actually have a list of 16 items I wanted to bring up on it. And so I don't want to like dominate the whole discussion. So I want to wait till others have opportunity to talk and see if they hit any of the ones that I have on my like list of notes there for it.
Okay.
And I know William's going to hate coming to these meetings. He like.
Hey, if the check keeps clearing, I'll keep coming.
Do either of the other of you have anything before I have something to say?
Yeah, I know Bob Hassinger has been on that website because he's signed up. Yeah, he's got a sign in there.
I'll defer
Yeah.
to you guys.
I can start. So I haven't spent a whole lot of time with the website, but I did get a chance to spend a little bit of time with it. I did create an account. I went through kind of like the mailing list sign up functionality, which seems to be actually functional right now. I haven't got an email from it yet, but I was able to successfully sign up for a few things. I think that like just overall impressions, I think that it's definitely a step forward. for the town website. I think that anything that I was trying to do seemed to be a little bit easier to do here and require less clicks than it previously did. Most of the things that I identified around things that need to be potentially updated or changed were more around the user experience and how humans interact with the website, right? Like one example is like there's a lot of external links on the site, and when you click on an external link, it seems to clobber your existing session on the town website, right? I would like to see, and this would be really easy to do, when you go to an external site, it just opens a new tab so that you then can go switch back and forth. So that was probably the biggest piece of feedback that I had.
I agree
around
with that. I had the same note on that, that I feel like that interaction was very kludgy and should be handled better for that very reason.
Yeah, the place I came across it was trying to get to our video on demand, the cable stuff for meetings and others. And it kept bugging me about leaving the site every single time. I don't want to be leaving the site. There are at least 2 different places that we can send people for video. We can send them to YouTube, but we also have our own server. Last I checked, which we've gone to some trouble to have. And that's, well, at least within the town's world. I might have a little more to say about some of that a little bit.
Okay. Well, let me see. Couple of things, a couple sort of highlights I want to hit. There's a lot of detail that I'm still sort of reviewing and thinking about. I want to be able to make some constructive suggestions about some of these things and I'm not quite, haven't quite settled my mind what I would like to suggest. So I'll defer that for the moment. But a couple of things that sort of highlights. I was looking particularly at some of the newer functionality. I wanted to say something about the calendar, but the calendar, there's not enough there on the calendar for me to even attempt to work with to see what I like and don't like about it. So until the calendar is more fully populated, I just don't feel that I'm ready to have anything to say about it at this point.
I agree. I had the same comment that I was actually disappointed that there wasn't at least some kind of test data put into the calendar to see what I feel is pretty important interaction for things on the calendar. One of the biggest complaints that people have is with the current calendar, not being able to easily go in and click through and get into a meeting from it and such, and just having like multiple things on one day and how they appear on the side, as well as the ease of navigating through to find a meeting and go directly into a meeting is pretty important, I think. And so I was a little upset that, or disappointed, I should say, that we weren't able to test that functionality. Is I think it's key.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity for integration with the calendar function with the meeting records function. That's sort of something that the more I look at it, the more it's really interesting. It's listed on the main page under agendas and minutes. And then when you click through to that, the title of that is a agenda center, which when you look at the content there, it's really a whole lot more. It's a meeting center because it's on one page. It combines meeting agendas, meeting materials, meeting minutes. There's no link to meeting videos on there yet, but that's an opportunity for further integration. Basically, on that page, you locate a meeting, you can get to most all of the documents related to that meeting, which I think is a really, really nice feature. I think there's a basis there. There's some details about that I think can be and should be improved. But the basic idea of collecting meeting related information collecting all the information relative to a given meeting in one place. There's a lot to be said for that. Right there, you've got the meeting, like I said, meeting agenda, the meeting minutes, other documents, meeting packets, individual documents, and it's all kind of right there. There are some details about how it works that I'm not totally pleased with, but the concept I think is excellent. I think it's something that our old website has very definitely lacked. You go one place for minutes, another place for agendas, another place for the board and committee with their own meetings. And the other thing about this is when you go to an individual board or committee, their meeting link links back to this common meeting center. So I think overall it's a good design. As I said, I would quibble with a few details of it, but overall that's one of the things that's, I like that. I like the way that's going. And as I said, there's room for improvement there, but I think the overall the idea is it's really a much better way to organize that information than the old website. And we can talk more about some of the details, but I wanted to highlight that as one of the things that that I saw that I was really impressed with overall. And the other major topic that I want to touch on is the user accounts. Again, there are some details about how that works that I might suggest have room for improvement. Overall, there's a lot that's sort of gathered together there, and I think the most notable thing that I thought was kind of missing from there was when you get into your user account, you've got the My Applications. There's one thing missing from there, and that's notifications. How do you sign up for notifications? You don't sign up for notifications like you go into everything else that's related to your account. That could be just an oversight. There's some things there that I'm not sure that they're really of value. They may have been carried over from some other town's website design. But again, there's overall, I think it's pretty well structured with some exceptions, and there are some details about how it's presented and all that could go into a lot more depth on. But I'll stop my comments there for the moment. As you can tell, there's a lot more that I could get into in a lot of detail, but we don't have to talk about it all tonight. I'm working on trying to write up some notes to share, particularly with William. Probably having a lot of stuff in writing and kind of well thought out is going to be more helpful than trying to take notes from this conversation.
Oh, if you want well thought out, then I should probably not talk then.
Of course, I won't claim that everything I write is well thought out. I may try, but
so I'll start with some of the I don't know where to start on this. So some of the good things that I did notice on here was through multiple browsers, both mobile and desktop. I liked that, and I know it was multiple things tied into it, but I liked how the PDF reading functionality allowed it to also populate links from the PDFs that the agendas that were created on the site. So it gave the ability, if you went to a committee's agenda, the Zoom link was actually clickable, and it opened up Zoom as it should. And that's, while it's nice on the desktop, it is huge on the mobile device where you don't want to have to go typing in URLs and things like that. So I like that functionality was something that we called out, and it appears to be working pretty well. Like I had mentioned before, I would love to see how that ties into the calendar, so that way you don't have to go searching for the agenda notes through the website. And so I'd like to see how that all ties in at some point. I do think that the website definitely looks more polished, looks more up to modern website design than the old one, which was pretty dated from a graphic experience point of view. I do see some inconsistencies though, or things that kind of just look off. One is a very small one, which is, I don't know why, but on some browsers, when you go to the page, initially the report a concern button like literally moves like slightly when you load it up. It starts in one place and moves slightly by the time the page is finished loading. And it's the only button that does that. And I have no idea why that does it. But I found that really weird. But a bigger concern that I had was, and I know this was something that I believe Dave or Bob Hassinger mentioned last meeting, was on the mobile phone, there is still pretty much always the space when you go to the site. And so for many users, it's not a big deal. They know to scroll down, but for a lot of users, you go to the site and all it is like a picture basically that you look at. And I know the picture adds a lot of the flavor to the site, but out of everything that's on that site, it has to be like one of the least important parts of it. So if you really like the picture, I think at least for the mobile site, it really should be either a translucent background behind text or something in a way where it does not conflict with what you're trying to read, or done slightly different in a way where you have a compressed image or something, so that way most of the mobile browser actually has meaningful, useful things on it that you don't have to go scrolling for stuff. Like it already is pretty long that you have to scroll through for things on that page, because it does set the width of it to your device width like it should in a web page, but the web page ends up being very long because of your news blocks and such. And so there is a lot of scrolling involved. And because of that, items that are at the very bottom of the page in your footnotes become like a minute long scrolling to get to them. Most of it is pretty okay, but one of the items that really stick out to me is something that I feel really should be somewhere else or have a call out from higher up, is the frequently asked questions section that's at the footnote. I like how that section is done. I know we talked about it in a previous meeting that have a collection of things that people ask often, and it also gives a point for the search engine to be able to find those topics easier as well. But I feel like that would be a good fit in the how do I part of the menu bar, like under find or something, like just have like another link there saying how do I find other frequently asked questions or something that would then go to that page that's a little bit easier to find. Possibly maybe there's other better choices for it. I just feel like with the way that the website's designed, that section, which could be pretty vital, is pretty hidden for a lot of users.
Yeah, that's one of the things that caught my eye too, and that's one of the things that I haven't really settled in my mind how I would suggest it be improved. I can, you can see the problem, and it's not obvious to me what the best way would be to deal with it.
I think that, or I thought that the use of full screen hero images to make you look pretty had sort of been going out of style, because screen space is valuable, and above the fold is valuable. Also, though, it struck me that the hero images I was seeing weren't made in Grafton. It's kind of false advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we brought that. I think you or someone brought that up last time we talked about it also.
Yeah, I think some of what I've read about hero images, I mean, if the hero image includes information that is valuable for the user and even actionable items, like if you can have a big sort of a prominent display of something that really represents your company or whatever it is you're doing there, if it provides useful information to the user, and in preferably even actionable things where the user sees, I can do this, I can do that. Those sort of what they call hero images are useful. Hero images that like what we're talking about here, when it's just a big picture and it takes up screen real estate and it doesn't give the user any useful information, those are to be avoided as such. It's potentially potentially nice to have as an attractive background, provided that in the front of it there is information for the user, something that inform the user and give the user a chance to act on.
And don't get me wrong, I think the images are prettier and they make the site look nice. And on desktop, it really is not too much of an issue for most desktops these days. The people's screen sizes, the resolutions enough to where you really don't hide a lot of the page with that image. Maybe people who are using older monitors or lower resolutions to be able to see things better, or technology reasons would have the same problem, but it's really a problem on mobile devices. Like on mobile devices, you just have so much space when you load up the page that really doesn't have anything meaningful there at all. And that also includes one other thing on the mobile page, which looks like it's a design decision. And I guess to some extent, it makes sense that your menu bar, which is automatically present on the desktop page, on the mobile page, those links are not there and are hidden behind the menu button, which for people who are used to sites with that menu button, that's probably not a big deal. For people who use websites less often, they may not even know that there's that button is clickable with pretty important links there. I feel like at least the how do I link for that menu bar is pretty important as far as things that people are looking for on the site. And I went back and forth thinking as far as, should that really be one of your radio buttons? Like the online permitting, like it's like a subset of the how do I, but I don't know what I would replace there, but I feel like that's important enough to be a radio button and not hidden inside of that menu title menu bar. Like once again on mobile, it's kind of easy to miss that that's actually even a thing. And there's a lot of stuff that's in there that really does not show up elsewhere on the page unless you do searches.
Yeah, I was just reading an article the other day about essentially that exact topic on mobile, whether, when does it make sense to, hide your menu behind that hamburger menu, and as opposed to keeping the top level menu selections visible, in a manner similar. On mobile, you have obviously less screen real estate, so you might arrange, if you have 4 top level menu items, as I think is our case here at the moment, there's probably enough space on a mobile screen to keep those as independent menu items. The problem with mobile is if you have too many of those, you can have 6 or 8 top level menu items stretched across on a desktop screen, and that there's no good way to fit that into mobile. So the advice that this article had was on mobile, pick maybe your top 2 to 4 menu items to expose directly, and put everything else behind a deeper menu or something like that.
Yeah, and granted, I'm not a web developer profession, so I'm aware that there's different sides to this, and some of it goes to preference. I guess my biggest takeaway on this isn't as much that it's hidden behind the menu button, as I really feel like that one section, how do I, really stands out as being a lot of the information that's really important, and to some extent community call out is as well. That's not included in one of the radio buttons. Like board and committees has stuff that's kind of you can find through the agenda and minutes section through links through it. But some of this stuff like how do I section, like arguably I feel is probably more important than say employment opportunities for the general public, the general users of the website. And I don't know what capabilities of adding radio buttons or not, or if that's even configurable. I just feel like if one of the goals is to make this information easier for people to find, this is kind of a big one that we're missing on a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, that again touches on this topic that I haven't thought through well enough to say a whole lot about. But you've got some interesting links that are potentially of interest to your user community. One segment or another. You've got the 4 or 5. I guess it's 5. The top level menu items down at the top of the screen. You've got those radio buttons farther down. You've got some of the news links, you've got the calendar. Down at the bottom of the page, you've got a little column of quick links, which there's some stuff there that I think absolutely should not be hidden at the bottom of the page. But we've got useful information scattered in several places. And how best to organize that for presentation to the users is, I'm still trying to think through what I think might be some good ideas. I don't like the fact that stuff is scattered around in a number of different places, accessible in a number of different ways. I can't help but think there's got to be a better way to organize that. The how do I thing has, there's a lot to be said for that. It's a good way for people to, it's a good thing to attract the user's eye. How do I do this? How do I do that? And you start thinking about that, you could put tons of stuff under that. So there are some decisions that have to be made. What's more important? What should be made more prominent? I might even think that instead of having departments and boards and committees as two separate top level items, it could be your government as the top level item, and within that you could have that's further segmented by departments, boards, and committees. So there's some I have so far some random thoughts around some of those topics, but I'm trying to put together in my mind at least something more coherent that could be a recommendation for how maybe that could be more organized in a more useful manner for our users. I don't have all the answers for that yet. Not that I would ever expect you to have all the answers.
So William, I know that I think that the feedback for this was due in a couple of weeks. What's the best format for that feedback? What would you like to see from us in terms of a format, being that we're probably not going to meet between now and then?
So I have been taking some quick and dirty notes as we've been talking about it. I would love to have some written feedback. There are some things that you've talked about that I can provide answers for tonight. And there are other things that I will bring back to our project manager and the designer of the website, and we'll see what we can be done for, the harder design aspects of the website.
Okay, great, thank you. So just like kind of bullet point written.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay, thanks.
And for the things where you say, something you like on a specific page, it does this, providing the link would be fantastic.
Okay.
I'll send over my comments this week for you to have, so you don't, in case I talk too fast then for you to write down notes.
Who we got the recording for?
That's true. That's true. In case you wanted something to watch and as you're trying to fall asleep one night or something. Well, we're talking about the top mini bar. I don't know why, but under the business header, I really didn't like how it's called doing business. I feel like doing business is it's very vague to me. Like, what does that even mean? And like, if I click on it, I can kind of see that has to do with economic development stuff maybe, but there's like nothing really there. I don't know if that's a placeholder or what, but I think we can have a different subheader description for that than doing business, I would hope.
So just to answer that real quick. So the reason for it says doing business, that's what it was on the previous site, as that pointed directly to the Economic Development Commission. We gave EDC, and I think we spoke about this at one of the prior meetings, the department head banner that we purchased, which sort of makes it like its own mini site, because we feel that EDC is something that we want to spotlight, something that we want to help John Allen with the website. So he and I have been talking, and we're going to be working to populate it with everything that he feels relevant for EDC. But I did write down potentially changing the doing business tagline to get there.
Yeah, so are you looking primarily to have this as a call out for businesses that may be looking to come to Grafton, or for residents that are looking to see what that committee is doing, or combination of both, but both here?
A combination of both. So there is still the link to the business directory that we have in town for everything that's going on. But John at the moment is really pushing to do some more publication for some of the land in town to attract some larger businesses. So he and I are going to be working on the marketing for that to get that up on the website and effectively use the space we have.
So something like available business opportunities, or
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that would, maybe be a good heading for that, subheader for that. And a question about the business directory, what populates that? Is that a manual list that someone populates, or is that fed in from some other system?
I actually don't know the answer to that. I believe the business directory was started by, I think it was managed and started by Joe Layden, and has existed since then, but I can get to the bottom of that.
I'm just mainly curious because, like in our previous meeting, when we talked about manual versus automated processes, when you have manual processes, it really leaves the door open for things becoming outdated really quickly. And so that's why I was kind of curious. Like one of the ones that jumps out right on the first page, Angio's Brick Oven Pizza on 135 Westboro Road. We know they moved a little while back, actually a couple of years now at this point. So some of this stuff is kind of outdated, and the more outdated stuff you have here, the more people will find that they don't want to use it. And then it makes me question if there's businesses that aren't in here that should be in here, and what is the what's the process of getting a business in here, and so on and so forth. There's like I guess I'm curious on this whole method of how we're populating this, basically.
Okay, I can find that out. I can speak with John tomorrow or the next time he's in the building.
Okay, cool, thank you. On the community header, this is one of the ones I kind of really like how this one's coming together a little bit, and I think Dave talked about this briefly a little bit ago also. One of the comments I hear quite a lot in our community is that people don't find one good place to go to for what's happening in the community. We have various like online publications between the different blogs or news organization or whatever that have published stuff at times, but it's always been kind of hit or miss or whatever. And I'm wondering, is this community, like, so I saw the community news looks like it's tied to the ability for people to have websites that they create that can be called into from the community news there that maybe different organizations could use. But for community events, is the vision for this to be something for the different organizations in town to be able to populate with their events as a place to call for like where people can get pointed to on various online Facebook groups as far as what's happening this weekend. Holden Farms is having this event, or this is the Small Stones Festival is occurring, or whatever the case may be, like where they can easily go and say, what do I want to do in Grafton this weekend? Is that kind of what you're visioning here, or is this going to be something different?
So largely, I believe that the community, let me find it in my tabs again. Here we go. The community event page is going to be tied to the community event calendar. So we're going to use that for recreation, things like town meeting and things like that. A lot of the programming that the town itself puts on, in the past, it's sort of been a case-by-case thing on if we'll put, private community events on the web, on the Facebook page, on things like that. So I imagine that we will continue to take it on that case-by-case basis.
So this is an extension of the town calendar from the front page, but broken out to more as far like is this basically going to be a more in-depth point of view of the front page calendar, then is what that is?
Yep, a little bit of that, and providing all of the resources for, again, rec programming and things like that, brochures, details on where to go.
Okay, so
all of the meat and potatoes that you'll need to actually enjoy the community event.
All right, so it's more like town events more so than Okay, so I can see how those will be community events, but the ones that are put on by the town, I see, I understand. So then is community news also going to be something similar where the various departments will have news out for events that are coming up, you know, you can register for the Grafton Gazebo Road Race or what, you know, things like that for various events and summer events in the park and whatnot.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I think we maybe, oh, so not quite done with my list. So the last thing I said was actually the biggest and most important to me. I think when we first started talking about this, my comment was this new website is going to be, the success of it is going to be based around how easy it is for people to find stuff, how easy it's going to be for them to be able to go and look up information from things such as how do I get a dog license, to how do I get a permit for building a deck extension, to where do I pay my car excise tax, to, you know, to things like how, you know, how was this project, what was the discussion around this project back 4 years ago to that this was decided to do this project, or what actually was the discussion for the agreement for the townhouse renovation, or whatever the case may be. Like different things where you can look back at that. I feel from this going through this search, playing with the search engine for quite a while, that a lot of the stuff that is spelled out in the how do I sections, they do definitely feel like they are coming to the top of the search more often. And so that's nice that it's easier to find some of these commonly done things. I feel like there are still a lot to be desired for the searching through other documentation on this site. And I know we've had a lot of discussion about the cultivation of the data, tagging of the data in ways to make it usable for search engines and such. One of the things I wanted to look at more was how it compared as far as data over years. But I noticed that we only have like mostly 2 years, like a year and a half of stuff uploaded. There's a couple of things in 2019, but otherwise it's mostly 2021 and 2022. Is that a case of things just haven't been uploaded lately, or was there a conscious decision that we're not going to upload or things back to the site going forward?
Nope. So we are in the process of getting everything uploaded, every minute and agenda that is on the current site, because that is something that we think is important to have. The reason that it currently only goes back to 2020 mainly, or 2019 in some cases, is they moved over all of the documents for 500 meetings, which in their experience was roughly 5 years for most towns. For Grafton, it was about 2.5. So we are in the process of getting that moved over. We've got a quote to do the extra work, and we're moving forward with that.
Okay, that's good to know. I do feel like, well, I guess the question I have is, has there been work done or process figured out that there's been a lot of talk about how this data needs to be cultivated going and process wise onto the site and whatnot? Or are we still too new into this process to have come to decisions on ways to make the search engine better for that type of data?
Moving forward as we continue to upload things.
Yeah.
So long story short, I don't know. We have our first training with the websites next week, and they'll then show us the whole thing from the very basics to the very in-depth. And I spoke to our training officer today, actually, about what we're going to cover in those trainings. So one of the things I have on there right now is actually to train people on how to make sure links open in a new tab, because I know that was mentioned. I can speak to them at length tomorrow or Friday about how we can better use, meta tags in the search functions, and make sure people know how to do it and get to the standard of doing that every time we put something on the website.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. I know we talked about that a bit. I just feel inherently that the user reception for this website is going to eventually come down to how easy it is for people to find and use the website. And I do think that there's some improvements that have been happening here. I think the site is improved over the old site. I just see that there's also a lot of room for further refinement there. So it's
Yep.
promising that it sounds like something that you're aware of also and that you're working on. So that's good to know. That is probably my two biggest concerns right now is being able to get the search engine working better with the data we have there, and the mobile user experience are the two things that are really biggest concerns right now on this. So,
Yep, of course.
okay. That said, I will stop. I'll get off of my soapbox and let others have a turn to.
Yeah, I have is kind of a question for William as to what the intent is. Going back to the user accounts and yes, and what you get for signing in for it, and what the user accounts are capable of. And one thing I say is just pointing out a difference between the current website and this new one. Currently, you can sign up for notifications just by giving your email address. You don't create an account in order to do that. This has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. With the new website, as far as I can tell, you need to create an account in order to get the notifications. And the plus side of that is managing your notifications is much more visible. You can see what you're signed up for and what you're not. To the best of my knowledge, I cannot go into the current website to find out what I've signed up for. So yeah, it's and that may be off-putting for some people, having to create an account in order to get their notifications. It's probably better though that we do that. But the question I have is, and when I look at the capabilities that you get in your user account, there are several things there that appear to be sort of emulating social media functions on a town website. It doesn't have an obvious connection to doing business with the town or interacting with the town. It just seems to be, you can send messages to other users. You can post, it's like you're making a Facebook post your activity there. Yeah, and you can follow the activity of other people. So it just has a sort of a general purpose. It's not clear to me that that's of any real value, and I don't know if that was came as part of the package, maybe adopted from some other town or some other place that Civic Plus does work in. So there's some things there that don't seem to me to be particularly relevant. I was wondering if that was in by design, that there was an attempt to replicate social media functions here, or is that just what Civic Plus gave us and we really didn't ask for it? There are some other elements of that have the potential to be valuable for people. A lot of people aren't on Facebook, and for those of us who are, a lot of conversations about things going on in town relative to town government happen on Facebook. Having the ability to establish sort of a community of people specifically interested in town government goings on, and being able to there's the ability apparently to define groups, discussion groups, to have discussions on particular topics. There's some stuff there that may turn out to be valuable. It's somewhat like some of the social media functions that some of us are very familiar with, but I'm wondering to what extent this was intentionally an attempt to duplicate some of the functionality of social media.
So similar to what you just said, this is one of those things that came with the package. I can understand why some of this would be useful for employees with accounts on the website who actually manage it and upload content. The public-facing side, though, in just quickly poking around it, I can't imagine why it would be this way.
Why it would be what?
Why there would be, like I see one of the options is a blog post. I see what you're saying about community membership, group membership, Dave.
Yeah. So I'll leave it at, since this apparently wasn't something that we specifically asked for.
It was not, no.
Here's an opportunity for us to work with Civic Plus and sort of tune this to something that we think would be actually useful for our website users. And so, yeah, at this point, one of the odd things I saw in there was real estate listings. I don't imagine that we would have had any reason to ask for our website to host real estate listings. So that's something, going forward, I'll leave this as a suggestion to take a closer look at that and, try to tailor it to just things that we think are going to be useful for Grafton website users.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just worry about something. Online tends to have escalated, heated conversations more rapidly than in person. And if you have an environment where potential harassment can occur without any kind of moderation, that could be problematic. So yeah.
Yeah, that was another thought that occurred to me in thinking about that. I was looking at it this afternoon, that if we're going to have any kind of, user to user, communications, we need to worry about moderation, moderating it, and not letting it become a free for all. So apparently, this is something that we got from Civic Plus, and we really haven't looked at it too closely yet.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is definitely something that is now on my radar to get to the bottom of.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, because when you sign up for an account, all you need is an email address and a name, basically. I think it opens it up for people to create, maybe fake accounts and stuff like that, right? And basically posting anonymously at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already have one gentleman, a guy named Amar Clark, asking for free ice cream on the website.
Yeah, I thought it was a suggestion box, right?
Very, very concerning.
Oh, he's a troll, so I would not worry
Yeah,
about
no,
him. I would just block him.
Probably fake.
Yeah. Well, I
So
wouldn't buy this site with all those fake, what the,
So we're just talking about the user and registering for profile, registering the site and all that. While you're at it, ask them what the cookies that they're using, there's two cookies that I see, AI session and AI user, what tracking and where does that information go?
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually very common for website to have a disclaimer for what type of information they collect for things like
Yeah.
for that.
Well, the policy, it says contact the town, and then it just goes to a directory, so that's kind of useless. But yeah, they've got, most of these cookies are self-explanatory, but there's a couple here that I don't quite get what they're doing with that.
Okay.
as for me, I went in there maybe expecting to be closer to the real world or working the way I expected to work in the real world. And I was just disoriented immediately. The first thing I saw was login. There was login with I ran into login and the need to log in real quickly with no idea why one would want to log in. Our site doesn't work that way. We're providing information to the world. Why? So immediately site's not making sense to me. I try to go and look at the things that I typically look at or tell people to go look at, and it's all scrambled up. I can't find how it's going to work for the planning board and project. I find project stuff and it's not linking very well to anything. And I want to find the meeting materials and how that's going to look like, because I tell people to go through whatever it is to get to the meeting materials for the meeting, and I want to see what that looks like in this system. And I couldn't find any meeting materials. I found things off in different directions that maybe we're going to do that. I sure wouldn't release this anytime real soon. I didn't know what I was looking at. a lot of the time. So either as an existing user on the current site or as just a new person coming along, I'm sure we've all gone into sites many times and had to figure out how to find our way around. This site just didn't strike me as being ready for that at all.
What meeting materials for the planning board were you looking for? Were you looking for all of the development projects, or?
The thing that we personally have to use is you go into, you very quickly get to a list of upcoming or the current meeting and many previous meetings. You can click any of them and you get the materials for that meeting. Everything is there. The agenda, all of the documents that are relevant to all of the things we're talking about. Some of that's accomplished with a link that also goes to the individual project. In other words, those pages, I think, actually live under particular projects. But as I started to dig around into that, I was so disoriented that I couldn't really start making lists of things that were wrong. If I started to try to tell you, it'd be such a muddle.
Is it that you don't, so like when you go to the planning board page here, like it calls out where the agendas and minutes are, and you have to click to, and it takes you to the agenda center. Is that what you're not liking because you prefer to have all of it like easily available on the page while having to go to a different section of the website?
Well, I think there is a missing piece. I mean, you know, the agenda and minutes link does take you to where there's a list of meeting materials for the, you know, you can see that in the planning board. We have our meeting materials posted as individual documents, and that list does come up through the meeting agenda, you know, page, which because it includes,
comes from
but
down to planning.
there is something missing. There is something missing that you know, Bob and I both, you know, and I'm pretty sure I know what you were looking for, Bob, is on the planning board's meeting materials page. For each meeting, we have what amounts to the meeting agenda in HTML format with clickable links for public hearings, clickable links through to that development project. And that is, I mean, I think that's missing from, I mean, let's look at an example of meeting materials here.
So in the meeting materials, there is a list of PDFs, documents inside of, like if you go to one of the meeting materials and you click on it, then inside of it, it has a list of clickable documents of different PDFs that correspond to that planning board hearing that you can click on and it goes to those PDFs. Is that what you're looking for? That is not called out very well for you?
How about looking on the current site and seeing how that works? Maybe not right this minute.
Right. Right. Yeah, but what's missing right now from the news site is the meeting agenda with clickable links in the agenda to the relevant projects. I mean, part of the meeting materials that we have for the board are just documents. You know, so we have a list of documents that's been replicated here in the new website. But the other part of it is a page for that meeting that basically is the agenda with clickable links to documents as well as to projects.
Oh,
it's clickable links for public hearings. That
it seems like that page. So I'm looking at the July 11th meeting right now for the planning board, and it looks like that.
On which site?
On both of them. So it looks like the one on the new site does exist in the agenda center as a meeting materials link. It's just not organized the same. So I think that is definitely something that we can chip away at and see if we can organize it in a way similar to the way we used to do it.
Yeah,
I noticed that that these PDF agendas are not clickable like the other ones I've looked at are. Is there a reason why that's the case, or just how they were scanned in? Like on the other ones I've looked at, like you can click on the Zoom meeting, and like I had mentioned that earlier, like you can click on different parts of it, but I see on these planning board ones that you can't do that like I saw in other groups.
yeah, it would probably be worth contemplating whether it's feasible.
Alan, just to your point, that might just be because of how recent that agenda is. They might not have done all the bells and whistles on the most recent agendas.
Okay, gotcha.
That would be my quick guess.
Okay, so like only ones that have come up in the more recent time have been actually scanned through.
Possibly.
Gotcha.
But I'm sorry, Dave, you were saying?
Yeah, I was saying that, kind of going back to that agendas and minutes page, that overall, that master page there that has for all the boards and committees, what we've already got on there is the meeting agendas, other meeting materials, meeting minutes for those where the minutes have been posted. It'd be cool if either on that page or on the calendar page, and somehow through the calendar, the Zoom links could be there, clickable Zoom links right there on the calendar, or as an addition on that agenda, the meeting page, as well as, going back to the meeting page or the list of all meetings. In addition to agendas, other meeting materials and minutes, a link to the meeting video where available would be cool. Zoom links are probably not necessary for past meetings.
So the newer agendas that I've seen come up, they do have the clickable Zoom links and stuff. That's one of the things I definitely look for, because I've heard so many different times around town that it's a pain in the butt to try to pass along what the Zoom link is from like a mobile phone or such. And so like if you go to any of the more recent ones that are posted in August and on for the different groups, you'll see that those do have clickable links and such. I just didn't go far enough back to see the older ones hadn't been done yet. But
Right.
like more of the recent ones, well, I guess it's kind of hit or miss. Some of these, oh no, it has to be a Zoom meeting for it to have that, I guess. Yeah, so like the recent ones that are Zoom meetings seem to have the clickable links. That it was pretty important. It still is kind of hit or miss. Some of these do and some of these don't. Is this going to be more consistent in the future, I guess?
Yes, the Zoom links on the calendar and the Zoom links in the PDF agendas, that's one of those things that comes down to making sure every employee knows how to do it and making sure they know that that's something we want to do moving forward. So that's something that we're going to be highlighting.
So I would like to say yes, that is something we would like to do going forward.
Yes,
I agree. I'll throw in my vote for that.
And Dave, just to touch on something I heard you just mention quickly, I think I heard you say that you would like to see a link to the meeting recordings on that agenda center, and that functionality is there. That's something we'll be able to do. They didn't do that for us just because the links to the Zoom meetings were not on the website. They moved over.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that probably was something that'd be easy to do. And what's I had said this before, and I'll repeat myself a little bit, that it's really, while it might be titled Agenda Center, it's really a whole lot more meeting information. Gotta find a better name for it, because even on the main page, the button that goes there is Agenda and Minutes. Doesn't really tell you everything that you can get there. So a meeting information center or something like that. I'm not sure what the best wording is for that, but you want people to know that here is the place you go to look for meeting minutes, for meeting agendas, for meeting materials, for meeting recordings. Basically, everything you wanted to know about a particular meeting of a particular board on a particular day, here's where you go to get it. My
understanding is we won't be able to change the name, as the agenda center is part of the proprietary move over that we did. That the Agenda Center is Civic Plus's thing. That was one of the selling points. So I believe that I can ask, of course, but I believe that will stay the way it is.
Yeah, which if we're stuck with that, it's unfortunate because that name totally doesn't tell the people what you can get through that button.
I think at a minimum, maybe we could just put some text underneath it that has a little bit better of a description.
Yeah, I think that's, you got to give people, give people an easy to see. If I'm curious about this meeting, past, present, or future, here's where here's my one-stop shop for everything about meetings. Somehow we want to get that across to our users.
William, I have a question. So one of the things that I think many of us had commented on and felt were pretty important early on in this discussion was getting the impression from other users that may be less technical than, say, people who are on an IT committee to be able to use it. And one of the ideas I always brought up was like literally having someone like yourself or someone that's involved with this go and sit down with people at the senior center or in various other settings and have them use it and see how they use the page and make notes as far as things that they struggle with, because people could fundamentally use the page differently depending on their experience using web pages. Have you done much of that since all of this, since there's been a more usable page beyond just the design of it, or is that something that still you're looking to do?
So actually, we did do that. We have a beta test out with members of the Senior Center and the Council on Aging right now. We got some names and some email addresses from Shannon, the COA director, of some of the more active members of the center and people who might want to help. They haven't. We've received some feedback, but we're still waiting for some more.
So, I mean, just my opinion, those type of things work a lot better when you actually visit with them with like a computer or laptop or something, where you can like basically sit down personally and see them use the site. So you can not only have their feedback, but you can also see what they struggle with and kind of get a perception from someone else using the site. And so I don't know, I just think that that's something that a little bit more there could go a long way for finding things that may be problems with the site or things that could be easily changed to make it a better experience for people.
Okay, I think that's definitely a great idea. I don't think that would happen before town meeting, but after that, we can see if any of them are interested in coming in. I believe the senior center has a room of computers where we could sort of do it in one localized place.
So I'm assuming you're pretty busy during town meeting from past experiences of town meeting, but would it be possible for us to have some others from the town or committees or whatever to even have a station set up at the town meeting for people to come before or after, where they can actually see the new webpage and try it out and use it and kind of give their opinions on it? Is that some like an idea to have like a little kiosk for it, where you have a lot of people from town who are the ones that are actively involved in the town government and who probably use the site more than say others do?
You talking
That
about
is
the end of
not
town?
something we've talked about. I don't believe we'd want to clutter up town meeting with that, especially if people were going to be doing it as they went into the room.
Okay.
I will say the link for the website, we did show it in a select board meeting. The link is a public record. People can see it online. It's been shown a couple of times actually. But in theory, I like that idea, but I don't think that's something we would want to do the night of town meeting.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Just a thought.
Okay, have we kind of exhausted ourselves for this evening as far as what we are motivated to talk about right now? Yeah, as I said before, I'm in the process of trying to write up some more detailed notes, and certainly for the purpose of my notes, what I asked you, William, a while ago about what some of this user stuff that we just got from Civic Plus, and we need to take a look at. That sort of changes a bit about what my comments will be, knowing that there's a lot of stuff in there that we didn't intentionally put there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And that's one of the reasons why I'm glad I sent, the committee the link. Having 7 people look at the site and find things is far more efficient than having one person do it. So, I'm happy to bring all of this stuff back to Civic Plus, find out what's going on, and provide you with some answers.
Yeah, just for over the last couple of days, I've been focusing my attention on the new functionality here, the calendar, which, as I said, that there's not enough there for me to comment on me in a meaningful manner. The user sign-in stuff and the meeting agenda section, that those particularly interested me as things that are notably different from the old website.
Yeah,
and worthy of considerable attention.
Yep. So my understanding is next week when we do the training, the people who have access to the website to edit it and upload content, all of their accounts and logins will become live again, and we'll be able to start populating the calendar with actual data. So once that starts happening, we can bring that to your attention so you can look at the functionality of the calendar with, some more meat on there.
That'd be great. That'd be absolutely great. William, one question. You had just mentioned that for others who want to see the site, it's a part of public record from previous select board meeting, or the URL was mentioned. If someone watches back on this video or whatever and wants to take a look at which select board meeting would they look at to be able to find that link? Or
oh geez, I don't know.
You don't know.
I can tell you the link is so it's the old link. It's ma-grafton.civicplus.com.
All right, thank you. I knew the link because I've looked at the page, but I just wanted you to say it because why not?
Yeah, I cannot remember what meeting that was. They meet so often, it's all just a blur.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's just say, it's not this committee's decision to publicize the link, but if the people in charge of it wish to name the link, so be it. Right, Alan?
Do you think that this is going to go live and be pretty static, correct some typo somewhere and that kind of thing? Or do you think the structure is going to evolve to any degree, any significant degree going forward? I just, with the experience I had today, all I can see is as we get to where it's actually the running thing, I can start sending, over here, this is, and over there is something, and you're going to have to do more than, do a little editing of some words, which gets, that's okay. How soon is this? How soon are you looking for this to go live? Because if it goes live too soon, well, it's all, you can't really judge. I can't judge how it's going to work until it's put together pretty fully.
So the website is set to go live this month in about 3 weeks.
Oh.
It is not my intention to have this be a static website after the new one goes live. Civic Plus, I have found, is a fantastic company to work with. Even when we had the old site, if we had any issues or we wanted anything specific done, we emailed them and they helped us almost immediately. Our project manager, John Larson, has been great. So it is my hope that anything we find after the fact, we'll be able to remedy.
Yeah.
And in addition to this board, the select board and seniors in the Council on Aging getting the link, it went out to all of the department heads as well to review the content on their page to catch anything that is out of date, any spelling errors, anything like that. And they will all receive training on how to update their pages in particular.
I'm thinking about higher level organization. Some of the stuff we've talked about tonight, for example, and structure, because it involves some serious work maybe at the other end, and you've got a contract that says how much they're going to do, right?
Correct.
And so that's what worries me.
William, you said that the site's scheduled to go live in 3 weeks. Previously we had some discussions about what, and I don't remember necessarily how long is the old site going to be available for? Like, it's not going to be updated any further, but how long is that old site going to be available for back reference before it's taken down? Or is it going to happen at the same time?
So the site won't be accessible to the public
Mhm.
anymore as soon as the new site goes live. Civic Plus has told me that it is possible to go into the old site even after it is taken down and retrieve content if we need it. But they made it seem like it is not easy.
Are people, is the URL you end up with to get to the site different from the current one?
Nope. Once this site goes live, it will take to grafton-ma.gov.
So some, yeah, which is what it should be, so that I don't just one morning click and all of a sudden there's nothing. I click and I get a whole different thing than I saw the last time, but it's still at the URL that I've got up there.
Yes, it will still be the same URL.
Yeah, I'm assuming that it's going to be either opting load balancer VIP to point to the new server or modifying DNS to point to the new address with a low TTL or something along those lines. But if that's the case, then the old server, while it doesn't have the old URL, it likely, unless they're purposely removing it from the from public access, like that old server is still going to be there. So it sounds to me like their statement that it may be difficult to access it, make it accessible, is more of a way to encourage a rapid migration to the new site so they don't have to support that any longer, more so than actual technical reality.
Oh, I wonder if there's some way to, at the beginning, to say, hi, this is the new site. And, just a one time or for a bit of time, say, so that I don't say, what is this? Where did the website go? What am I getting now? The average person, there's a dozen of us who know what the story is. If there can be some sort of, hi, this is the new thing. Maybe you want to go do a couple of things to get yourself oriented. Might be helpful.
You're basically talking about like a little avatar pop up and say, welcome to the new site. Here, let me give you a guided tour, or you can click or skip or whatever if they don't want to go through that, is basically what you're saying, right?
Put those words on that hero image.
They could resurrect the old paperclip guy, right?
I was thinking about clipping.
Clippy.
I was actually thinking about the paperclip from Microsoft, and I wasn't sure how much people would get that reference. I should have known that you all would understand that reference. I was actually thinking
good old
about
Clippy.
that.
But that's
I would
really
love to say
common with
I
a new.
understand that as well. I'm not that young. We
Well,
had
you
the
hadn't
paperclip
seen
too.
you hadn't seen Top Gun prior to a couple of months ago, so I don't.
You do what you can.
Yeah, I think the paperclip was named Bob, wasn't it?
It could have been, yeah.
I don't know if it was a
There was the
paperclip,
dog,
but
right?
There was a
dog, too.
Microsoft Bob. I think Microsoft
Yes.
Bob was more of an animated character.
Oh, okay.
I think
Yeah.
I think he preceded Clippy.
Yeah, paperclip was just called Clippy, I think, but Microsoft Bob was earlier. An earlier.
Even worse, right?
Well, if you go back far enough, you can get to the old Walking Man days.
I know. Our version of Clippy will be an alligator.
Oh, yes. Depends on which side of the, never mind.
Well, I was going to say, if you're just looking for ways to stir up drama online, there you go.
You sign in as a user, you get to choose.
All right, I think this meeting is past the point of
I
usefulness.
think we are devolving here.
Yes.
Okay, but just a reminder, everybody write up any additional comments you have, send them off to William, and William will read them and either burn them or make good use of them.
I'll keep Alan's and Amar's. No guarantees on yours, Dave.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought you're gonna have a role that sends an email from me to a bucket.
Well, unfortunately, my comments are going to be about 100 pages long. Guarantee no one will read them.
Hey, I read your clicker manual. I'll read your website feedback too.
Okay, and so enough for now on the website, unless anybody has anything else. We've just got another 1 or 2 agenda items to deal with.
No, I want to say thank you, William, for being receptive and coming here a second time to get beat up a little bit. I know that you've worked hard on this, and it's something that you, as much as anyone or more so, want this to succeed. So I thank you for spending the time and hearing us out on some of the comments.
I'm happy to receive all the feedback. I appreciate it. I think it'll make the site just even better than it is.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, creating a website like ours, and ours is probably not the most complicated or website to have to we don't have to deal with things like taking credit card payments on our website, and there's a lot of stuff we don't have to do, but it's a big enough job that you just can't, you're not going to get it absolutely right. Technically, you'll never get it absolutely right 100%, but there's more work that goes into it than you think when you first approach the job, as is the case with most jobs in software. The work always turns out to be more complicated than you expected it to be. But the more feedback you can get on something like this, the better the product will end up. And I think we're all interested in seeing this ultimately succeed. And it may be more work than any of us wished it would be, but you put enough work into it, you'll get something that ultimately will be pretty good. I would be more worried if William was not interested in hearing from us and just rejected all of our sessions, all our suggestions, saying, no, I've got this. I know everything I need to know.
Oh God, no.
At that point, I'll just assume he's part of the enterprise team in my architectural council at work at that point.
Okay, well, good. And yes, I'll add my thanks to you, William, for taking the time to meet with us and work with us and give us a chance to review this. And we'll keep moving it forward.
Excellent.
With that, we have one more agenda item, which is to review and approve previous meeting minutes, of which tonight we have 2. We'll take up the older one first. We had an executive session from August last year, which we
do we have to be in executive session to approve the release of this into executive session?
It depends. If we don't have to say, at least this is the way it's been for me forever. If we don't have to talk at all or show at all, and then I've often accepted a motion to approve the minutes as presented, and hold them until the issues are resolved. That way, you don't have to be in executive session, because if we want to talk about anything that's in that at all, we have to go to executive session.
Yeah, no, we briefly discussed this at last month's meeting, where Evan was probably the person who was in the best position to determine whether there was a continuing need to withhold these minutes from publication. And Evan's answer was all the concerns have been addressed, so that Evan saw no reason that we couldn't proceed to release these minutes to the public. And I think it was Evan's suggestion that at this meeting tonight, we could simply vote to approve the minutes and to release them from release them to the public.
Okay, let's find out if there's anybody who wants to have any conversation about it.
I read through it, and my only concern would have been if Evan had said some of it was not remediated, but with it all being remediated, I'm not worried about it at this point.
Okay, I move that we do what Dave just said.
Move to approve the minutes as drafted and to release them to
And
the
are released.
Again,
moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Baker,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
Aye.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Carroll,
I,
and Mr. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. I like to call people by first names. When I say Bob, there's two Bobs here, so.
Well,
Anyway, motion carried unanimously.
come to a cable committee meeting. We have 3 who all have a lot to say.
Yes.
It's like the Bill Murray movie. What about Bob?
Yes. And we have the minutes of last month's meeting for our review.
I move we approve as drafted with any typos that we note.
Are we just assuming I make typos now?
No, but that makes it possible to have a handy motion. It's
Yeah.
it's one of our workarounds. So we don't have to amend the motion when we have a change or do something. But we can have a motion so that we can raise the subject and discuss it.
So I believe it was moved and seconded that the minutes of the.
Who
September
seconded it?
7th
I'll second it.
Okay.
Moved and seconded, minutes of September 7th be approved as drafted with any corrections that might be noted during discussion. All right, is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will put that to a vote. Mr. Baker,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
Aye.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Carroll,
I,
and Mr. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. The minutes are approved. And
make a motion, we adjourn.
No, we gotta
Seconded.
find out whether we need an executive session there first.
yes,
I don't believe we do we?
right,
there. And so we can skip over that item.
Who seconded that? Sorry.
I did.
Thanks.
all right, moved and seconded that this meeting be adjourned. Alan,
Aye.
Bob H,
Aye.
Amar,
Aye.
Bob C,
I.
and Dave votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. This meeting's adjourned.